Today, we're going to give you an overview of how intersectional feminism helps solve some of the issues of exclusivity that the women's movement can be prone to. Let's take a look at the history of the Western feminist movement. Who's represented and who isn't?
The first wave of feminism took place in the early 20th century and consisted mostly of the suffragette movement. Suffragettes were women who fought for the right to vote. The suffragette movement was an important part of feminist history, but the leaders of the movement were mostly white, wealthy women who were dedicated only to gaining the right to vote.
The second wave of feminism took place in the 1960s to 1980s. The second wave was precluded by women's financial independence during the war, when women had to assume the societal roles of both men and women. After this, women were dissatisfied going back to being housewives. There was also a focus on reproductive rights and sexual liberation during the second wave. The feminist movement also began to focus more on diversity and including the voices of people of color, queer people, trans people, disabled people, and other historically excluded identities.
The third wave of feminism took place in the 1990s. Some people believe it has continued into the present day. An integral part of third wave feminism was the Riot Grrrl movement, which was centered around music and the arts. However, this movement was dominated by white women and was less inclusive of other identities due to the fact that it had thrived mostly in small communities in wider areas of the Pacific Northwest and Washington, D.C.
Throughout the history of Western feminism, inclusivity of all different people has not always been a priority.
The mainstream feminist movement hasn't always kept all women in mind. We think that the concept of intersectional feminism solves these issues of exclusivity.
Intersectionality, or intersectional theory, is a term coined in 1989 by American civil rights advocate and scholar of critical race theory Kimberly Williams Crenshaw.
Is basically the idea that we experience life, sometimes discrimination, sometimes benefits, based on a number of different identities that we have. The basic term came out of a case where I was looking at Black women who were being discriminated against, not just as Black people, not just as women, but as Black women. So intersectionality was basically a metaphor to say, well, they've got race discrimination that they're facing coming from one direction, they've got gender discrimination coming from another direction, and they're colliding in their lives in ways that we don't really anticipate and understand.
Intersectional feminism is feminism that includes all people, especially all women, who have not always been recognized as part of the feminist movement. Intersectional feminism includes women of color, queer women, disabled women, trans women, and other identities that have historically been excluded.
I think I would like all of feminism to be intersectional feminism. So I guess there's a difference, but I wish that there wasn't. I think that feminism for me, like kind of the ideal of what feminism is, would all be intersectional. I would all sort of understand that. I think part of the project of feminism should be understanding that women are not all the same, right? You can't just stereotype them and think that everything, that we can understand just by finding out that someone's a woman, that we then understand everything about them.
But intersectionality is this process of imbrication or of imbricating. If we think about the way that the tiles on a roof are connected and overlapping, we can think about identities and also discrimination as having this similar overlap. So the way in which we have to think through not just race and not just gender, but how race and gender and class and sexual orientation, all of these things, and religion and ability status, all these things work together to both help define who we are and what our identities are.
Feminism is for everybody, or at least it should be. Is your idea of feminism inclusive for people from all walks of life?